Hey, what's up, guys? Hey, Saddam Hussein is on the stream. Hey, Saddam from the dead. What's up? Glad you're here. I don't know what. What are you doing here? Shadow Kitsune. Hey, Shadow. It's a Kitsune. Oh no. Hope Johnson. I hope you're having a good day. Boba and mochi will be delivered in a few minutes. What do you mean? Like here? You're delivering boba and mochi here? What are you doing? I mean, I'd love that. Wither Jolly. Hey, hello. How's it going? Nikki, evening. Hello. Leslie Ann. Hey. You've been waiting all week for this? Oh, I hope not. I hope you won't get disappointed. Lewis. Hey, Lewis. How's it going? Jason. What's up, Jason? Tokyo Hub. Ah. Tokyo Hub says, hey, folklore daddy. Mm. Daddy's going to read you a bedtime story. What's up, Freddy? How's it going? Scully the Bandit. There you go. I said your username. Giving me orders here. Hey, Losh. How's it going? George. What's up? Freddy, you just got done digging up your garden. Hey, you're a gardener. Good job. I mean, I don't have a green thumb. I'm not good at that gardening stuff. My dad is though. He has an epic garden in his backyard. So I get a lot of fresh vegetables, which is good. CC, what's up, CC? Orava. Orava. I will be getting some in the mail soon. Hope. Really? Okay. Did you sent me boba and stuff? That's really nice of you. Thank you so much. It is a school night. Okay, so an update on my yokai, my attic yokai situation. If you didn't know, there's something up in my attic. It's living up there because I hear it moving, scratching, and then moving some of the boxes up there around. So I finally got a little trap. Okay, and then I put it out there. So this little cage thing, with the place for a bait. So I put some. I hope it likes dried shrimp because I put some dried shrimp on the in the trap. So I did that yesterday night, and this morning I got up there and I checked the trap, and I found nothing. No, this trap is still there. So I didn't catch anything yet. It's still there. So when it snaps, right? If it snaps, I will be able to hear it from here. So if we're lucky, it'll happen during the live stream, and we get to find out what kind of yokai is living up there. Yeah. Do you have a Discord server? I do have a Discord server. It's in the description if you want to take a look. Aren't katanas an impractical weapon? No, they're not. They're actually really good weapons. Yeah. I think a lot of the Chinese and people and countries around the area at the time they think they thought that katana was a really good weapon. Dun, dun, dun. I can't wait for this chapter name. Hope the nun is in it. Gotta stick a camera up there. I don't know. If it's like a raccoon or a possum or something, I'm afraid it'll like destroy my camera. Those things are expensive. Yeah, I'm guessing it's like a rat or something. Because it's the attic. Like, what kind of large animal? I don't think. How did they get in there, right? I don't know. We'll see. Lucky for you, I like shrimp. Well, don't take the shrimp from my trap. Mm, Yeah, so hopefully we'll catch something. I haven't heard it up there in a while, so it might not be there at the moment, but we'll see. Okay, I do have some tea for the stream. Yeah, this little teapot thing that I have. So I'll be drinking it. So that means tea makes me pee a lot. So there's gonna be a lot of peeing on this stream. Not on camera. Well, not yet. But brace for impact. Alright, cheers. Oh shit. Woo! What happened? I swallowed upside down tea or something. I'm sorry. Woo! It's not bad tea, okay? That's not why. Oh my god. What the hell? It's pandan leaf tea, which is really good. Oh, Jesus Christ. That is a nice looking teapot. Well, thank you. I think it looks I think it looks nice. Oh god. This is a great start. Great start, guys. Did I watch Atla? I sure did. I'm starting to watch it actually. I know. I'm very ashamed that I didn't watch it earlier. I'm on season 2. It's pretty good so far. I like it. We're talking about Avatar, The Last Airbender. I did gag on the tea real good. Jesus Christ. Let me compose myself. Oh, Sorrow Eerie, thanks so much for the super chat. Yeah, I need that. Thank you so much. What kind of tea is pandan leaf tea? Okay, we also have some candy. You know, remember that gigantic box of candy that we have? Look, it's almost done. We almost finished it, or I almost finished it. The only one I have left is this. It's macadamia nuts from the Meiji government, apparently. It's been a while. This is a really old candy. So let's see how it tastes. Your favorite is oolong? Oolong's good too. Oolong's good. For like milk tea, I like black tea. Like black milk tea, that's really good too. I open this. Oh, it has a little thing. A little unboxing. And wrappers, let me open it up. There you go. There you go. Macadamia. Let's see. Good shit. That's really good milk chocolate. And macadamia nuts taste like normal macadamia nuts. But that's really good milk chocolate. All right, shall we get started? Emily says, thank you so much for your channel. I've learned heaps. That's good. Thanks for watching it. Oh, taro milk tea is good too. My brother really likes that stuff. All right, you guys. Can I speak after that? All right. What happened last week? Let's recap. So last week, remember Ling Hu Chong, our main character, is up in the cliff of contemplation, or the mountain of contemplation. No, it was the cliff of contemplation, because he was being punished for cavorting with demon cult members. So he was sentenced to punishment, and the punishment was spending a year alone up in the mountains to meditate. So, once in a while, his younger sister or younger apprentice sister visits. And one day, Ling Hushang trains with Ling Shan, who just learned some cool moves from her mother. And they're training, but then Ling Huchang is actually a little angry or / jealous because she seems to be falling for this other guy, Lin Pingzhi. And as they were fighting, he accidentally knocks her sword down the cliff. Okay, and she gets mad and she goes away. And she stops visiting, or she stops visiting as much. Okay, and he's all sad. And one day, this weird old man in a green robe appears outside of the cave that he's living in, and then he performs the moves that they were doing, that they were training, that Ling Shan was had just learned. He performed the same moves, but they were so good. It was like another level above her, right? And he did it so well. And Ling Huchang was so impressed. And then the old guy just walks away, okay, for no reason. And Ling Huchang is confused, and he assumes that this is like some higher up, some high uncle master in the Huashan school that he's never heard of for some reason. So Ling Shan visits him less, and his sixth apprentice brother Lu Dayo started coming more to bring him food. And the thing is, as Ling Shan is growing closer to Lin Pingzhi down in the mountains, down below the mountains, Lu Dayu is a real bro. Okay, he's a really good brother and a really good friend to Ling Huchang. So Lu Dayu really hates it that Ling Shan is falling in love with Lin Pingzhi. Okay, and he causes some trouble with Pingzhi down in the mountains. Let's see. The big thing that happened last week was that Ling Huchang finds this cave. Okay, this cavern, this hidden cavern that has the skeletons of old demon cult members, right? Like these elders of the demon cult members. So apparently they were trapped inside this cave. And on the walls of the cave, he sees carved onto the walls are figures performing martial arts. And he finds out that it is these demon cult leaders, these demon cult elders, defeating all of the moves of the 5 sword schools. Okay, all of these moves that they're like from basic moves to advanced moves. They beat all of the moves of the 5 sword schools in the 5 swords alliance, and he's he's really depressed because he's been learning this all of his Huashan school martial arts, and he realizes that they're not that good. or they can be defeated really easily from these from what he saw in the cave walls. Okay. Then later on, he feels a little bit sick, or really sick for a month, and then I think Lingshan visits a couple of times, but not that often. So, but then he gets better, and that's where we end chapter, whatever chapter that was. All right, so that's the recap. How's that? Oh, I like that. Long distance relationships are tough, even if it's just the distance of up and down a mountain. They didn't have internet back then, so like up and down a mountain was probably like the same as being a world apart. I'm still in full screen, I know. I'll switch to the text when I start reading. You're looking for a good microphone? Mine is the the Audio Technica 1200, I believe. It's a pretty good one. It's good to hold when you're doing karaoke too. Want to see it? There you go. Yeah. Didn't the grandpa and girl wear green cloaks? I think the grandpa, the old man, I think he wore a green cloak. Yeah. Oh wait. Oh, you mean the grandpa and the little girl who died? I forgot. Oh, you think the old guy is from the demon cult? Maybe. Maybe. I'm sure we'll find out soon. Alright, guys. Let's switch to the text. Alright. At dusk, one day, Ling Huchong looked down from the cliff, as usual, and saw two figures coming toward the cliff in great speed. The one in front was in a skirt, and obviously was a woman. Both of them had excellent Qigong skills. Qigong is like lightness techniques, remember? It's techniques having to do with movement, so jumping really high, or running really fast, or jumping really far. Things like that. So these two had excellent Qigong skills. To them, the steep slope and precipices were just like leveled ground. Ling Huchong stared some more and then realized that they were actually none other than master and master wife. Now I forgot this. Alright, before every chapter. Chapter 9, Invitation, Part 1. Oh, chat reminded me. You guys remember everything. Ling Huchong stared some more and then realized that they were actually none other than master and master wife. Master! Master wife! In great joy, he called out loudly. Only a few moments later, Yue Buchun and Madame Yue leapt onto the cliff. Madame Yue had a meal basket in her hand. According to generations of traditional Huashan sword school rules, when someone was being punished to meditate on the cliff of contemplation, other than bringing food to him, none of his apprentice brothers would be allowed to come up the cliff to chat with him. Even the apprentice student of the one being punished would be restricted from coming up to pay his respect to his master. Who would have thought that the Yue Buchun couple actually came up the cliff themselves? Unable to hide his sheer joy, Ling Huchong rushed forward and knelt down, embracing Yue Buchun's legs into his arms. Master, master wife, I missed you so much, he cried out. Yue Buchun's eyebrows knitted into a straight line. He always knew that this top apprentice of his was forthright and sincere with his feelings, and was never strong at self-discipline, which was exactly the major barrier for studying advanced Huashan-style Qigong. Qigong is techniques to increase your qi, to strengthen your qi, right? or as this translation calls it, your inner energy. Before the Yue couple came up the cliff, they had already inquired about the cause of his illness. Although none of the apprentices had a straightforward answer, from the combined information from everybody's words, they had already figured out that it must have something to do with Yue Lingshan. After checking in details with their daughter and only getting hums and haws as her answer, they came to the same conclusion. Now, seeing the revelation of Ling Huchong's true feelings, Yue Buchun could tell that apparently in the last half a year, Ling Huchong had not progressed at all during his stay on the cliff of contemplation. Feeling somewhat displeased, he let out a snort. Madame Yue reached out and propped Ling Huchong up. Seeing Ling Huchong's thin and pallid face, so different from the face that had glowed with health and radiated vigor on normal days, she couldn't help but pity him. Hey, Bigfoot. You're not late. You're just on time. Chong, your master and I just got back from the far northeast and heard that you have been quite ill. Have you recovered yet? She asked in a soft tone. I am all recovered now. Ling Huchong felt a stream of warmth coursing through his body and teardrops starting to emerge in his eyes. Hey, real men are not afraid to cry, okay? That's why I cry all the time. Master wife, you two must have had a tiring journey, and as soon as you got back today, you are already coming up to see me. In great excitement, he choked with sobs and turned his head away to wipe off his tears. Madame Yue took out a bowl of ginseng soup from the meal basket. The soup is made with stewed wild ginsengs from the far northeast. It will be very good nourishment for you. Go ahead and drink some, she said. Realizing that master and master wife had carried the ginsengs over a very long distance from the far northeast and had thought of letting him take it before everyone else, he was so grateful that when he took the soup from master wife, his hand trembled slightly and spilled a little of the ginseng soup. Madame Yue reached for the bowl so she could feed him, but Ling Huchong quickly finished the soup in big swallows. You can tell that he really loves his master and master wife. Hey Godzilla, what's up? Yue Buchun stretched his arm out and placed his finger on Ling Huchong's wrist to check on his pulse, but his pulse was slick and speedy, which could only mean that Ling Huchong's inner energy level had actually slipped back quite a bit. Okay, so this thing about he checked, Yue Buchun checks his pulse, right? Checks Ling Huchong's pulse on his wrist. So this is a thing that in Wuxia novels and movies that they do a lot. So apparently, when you check someone's pulse like this, you can tell basically everything about their health. So you can tell what kind of disease they have, and if anything's wrong with their chi inside their body, right? So whenever you see a doctor, you see a doctor trying to check on his patient, he'll just do this. You just do this for a while, and it'll be like, yes, you do have tuberculosis, things like that. Okay, so this happens a lot. So this is what Yue Buchun does to Ling Huchong. Yue Buchun was even more displeased, but he only said dryly, "Yeah, he has recovered." After a short while, Yue Buchun asked Chong, "What did you do during the several months you spent on the cliff of contemplation? How come your inner energy level not only did not progress, and quite on the contrary, has slipped a lot?" Master and master wife, please pardon me, Ling Huchong said, bowing his head down. Chong had fallen ill. He hasn't fully recovered yet. Of course, his inner energy would suffer. Do you actually expect the more severely he had fallen ill, the better his kung fu would have been? Yue Buchun shook his head and explained, I wasn't talking about if he's healthy or not. I am talking about his mastery of inner energy, which has nothing to do with whether he falls ill or not. Our school's Qigong is quite different from other schools. As long as one keeps practicing it with devotion, he can progress even in his sleeps, let alone the fact that Chong has been practicing our school's Qigong for over 10 years. He shouldn't have gotten sick. unless he has incurred external wounds. In short, it would still attribute to his not being able to control his emotions and desires. Madame Yue knew her husband was right, so she said to Ling Hu Chong, Chong, your master has repeatedly advised you to practice Qigong and sword arts diligently. He punished you to meditate on top of the cliff of contemplation, but it isn't really a punishment. He just wished that without any outside interference, your Qigong and your sword skills would advance by leaps and bounds within the 1 year period. Who would have thought, alas. Ling Wuchang felt very embarrassed. I'm sorry, I realize my mistake now. I will practice with all my heart, starting from today, he said with his head down. Yue Buchun spoke again. There have been more and more turmoil in the martial world these days. During the last several years, your master wife and I went on many journeys and tried to smooth things up, but the root of the trouble remains, and it is difficult to get rid of. We believe that in the near future, big disasters are simply inevitable. We were both deeply concerned. He paused for a moment and then continued. You are the first apprentice of our sword school. Master wife and I both have great expectations for you. We hope that one day you'll be able to share some of the responsibilities and tasks with us and gain great fame for our Huashan sword school. But all you did was to tangle yourself with love affairs, neglecting your existing kung fu, not striving to make progress. You have really disappointed us. Seeing the deeply worried expression on his master's face, Ling Wuchang felt even more frightened and embarrassed. He immediately knelt down. I am so sorry that I disappointed master and master wife. Yue Buchun reached out and propped him up, smiling. It's good that you realize your mistake. Half a month from now, I will come back to check on your sword skills. Right after those words, he turned around and headed down the cliff. Master, there's this... Ling Wuchang called out, wanting to report the drawings in the back cave and the man in the green robe. Yue Buchun waved him off and then walked away. You must practice hard and truly master the sword moves. This is something that will affect your entire future life. You must not take it lightly, Madame Yue urged in a low voice. Yes, master wife. Ling Wuchang answered and was about to tell her the sword moves on the rock wall and the man in the green robe. Madame Yue pointed at Yue Buchun's receding figure in a smile and waved her hand. She then turned around and caught up with her husband in a big stride. Ling Wuchang thought to himself, why didn't master wife say that how I practice sword moves would affect my entire future life, and that I must not take it lightly? Why did master wife wait till master had left and then urged me behind master's back? Could it be? A thought suddenly emerged in his head, and his heart started thumping heavily, while his cheeks burned with embarrassment. He didn't dare to develop that thought, but hope still rose in his heart. Is it possible that master and master wife know I got ill for little apprentice sister's sake, and have decided to betroth little apprentice sisters to me? But the criteria is that I must work hard on my kung fu skills and become capable of carrying on master's legacy in both Qigong and sword arts. Master probably thought that it was inappropriate to speak it out. Master wife considers me her own son. That's why she urged me behind his back. Otherwise, what else could have effects on my entire future life? At that thought, he found himself in high spirits. He's still pining for her, guys. He still has hope. He drew his sword and picked a couple of the most advanced sword art forms Master had taught him to practice. But the drawings on the rock wall in the back cave had been so deeply engraved in his mind, regardless of which move he used, he would naturally remember the many ways how others could break the move with. In the middle of the form, he withdrew his sword and held it still in the air, thinking, I didn't get a chance to tell master and master wife about the drawings on the rock wall in the back cave this time. When they come up the cliff again half a month later, they must be able to answer my questions and rid my doubts after they study the drawings carefully. Do well and we will give you our daughter. That's true, huh? That's pretty funny. Even though even though Madame Yue's words greatly encouraged him, he didn't progress much with his practice of qigong and sword arts during the half-month period. He kept going off into wild flights of fancy every day. He's a dreamer, guys. He likes to daydream. If master and master wife betrothed the little apprentice sister to me, I wonder, in her own mind, whether she would agree to it or not. If we can really become husband and wife, would she forget her love to apprentice brother Lin? Well, apprentice brother Lin has only joined our school recently. He was only asking her for her advice on sword arts, and sometimes chatting with her so she doesn't get bored. They don't really have true love between them, and how could that relationship compare to the relationship between little apprentice sister and I when we grew up together and spent over 10 years together every day? That day, I almost got killed by Yu Sanghai's palm strike, and thanks to apprentice brother Lin's interference with his shouting, I barely escaped death. I'd better not. I'd better never forget that, and treat him well. If he ever gets into danger, even if I have to risk my own life, I'll definitely step forward to save him. Half a month went by quickly. In an afternoon, the Yue Buchun couple came up the cliff again. Coming together with them were also Xu Daizi, Lu Dayo, and Yue Lingshan. Noticing that the little apprentice sister came together with them, Ling Huchong's voice trembled when he greeted master and master wife. Madame Yue could tell that Ling Huchong had a high morale. His complexion was almost completely different compared to half a month ago. She nodded with a smile and said, Lingshan, go fill the rice bowl for your big apprentice brother. Let him have a full stomach before he demonstrates his sword skills. Yes, Yue Lingshan answered. She carried the meal basket into the cave and sat it on the big rock. After taking out the bowls and utensils, she filled a bowl with rice. Big apprentice brother, you can eat now, she said with a smile. Many thanks, Ling Huchong replied. Why, do you still have a fever? Why is your voice trembling when you speak? Yue Lingshan grinned. It's nothing, Ling Huchong answered as he thought to himself. If you will always be by my side when I eat, for the many days and nights after, I won't be asking for anything else in my entire life. Oh, God. Dude. Not in the mood for food at the moment, he quickly finished the bowl of rice. Let me fill you another one, Yue Lingshan suggested. No, thanks. Master and master wife are still waiting for me outside, Ling Huchong declined. After Ling Huchong came out of the cave, he found master and master wife sitting on a big rock abreast. He went in front of them and bowed to salute. He wanted to say something, but then decided that no words would be appropriate. Lu Dayo winked at him with happiness piled upon his face. Sixth apprentice brother must have gotten some inside information and is feeling happy for me, Ling Huchong thought. Yue Buchun had his eyes fixed onto Ling Huchong's face. After a long while, he finally said, Genming came back from Chang'an yesterday and said that Tian Boguang had just committed several big crimes in Chang'an. Tian Boguang has come to Chang'an? He won't be doing anything good, for sure. Ling Huchong was surprised. Of course not. He burglarized 7 families in a single night in the town of Chang'an. I wouldn't have minded that much if he was simply stealing, but he left his handwriting on every family's walls saying, borrowed by 10,000 miles loner, Tian Boguang. Yue Buchun exclaimed. What? Ling Huchong uttered a cry. He said angrily, the town of Chang'an is right next to Mount Huashan. He obviously left those words to defame our Huashan sword school. Master, let's... Do what? Yue Buchun asked. Master and master wife are honorable masters, and it's not worthy to dirty your sword for such a low-life scoundrel. But my kung fu is not good enough to match the villain. Besides that, I am still being punished and can't go down the cliff to look for him. That gives the villain the freedom to be on a rampage at the foot of Mount Huashan. This is so exasperating. If you do have the confidence to kill that villain, of course I will let you go down the cliff and make amends for your faults with good deeds, Yue Buchun replied. Go ahead and show us the unrivaled and unmatched the thrust of Ning your master wife taught you. In the last half a year, you probably have grasped 60 to 70% of it. Once your master wife gives you some more pointers, you might not lose to the villain Tian. Brother zoned. Losh, I like that. He's totally in the brother zone. Alright, what's gonna happen when he starts practicing? Starts showing them his moves. Well, you have to find out 5 minutes later, because we're gonna take a break. And I'm gonna clear my throat. Man, swallowing that tea was not cool. Alright, guys. 5 minutes. Oh, let me turn on my iTunes and play some music for you guys. What's a good song? Alright, guys. 5 minutes. Be right back. Alright, I'm back. Yeah, Bigfoot. So, I'm not hearing noises now, but I've heard them in the last week. So sometimes it's up there. I did set a trap. I use dried shrimp as bait. So hopefully, I'm hoping that during the stream, it happens and we catch something. I don't know. Cross your fingers. A homeless guy? Oh, my trap is a little small for homeless guys. I need a bigger trap. Alright, so his master just asked him to demonstrate what he's learned and what he's been training for the last half a year. Oh no, wait, the last month. He repeated the name unrivaled and unmatched, the thrust of Ning, back and forth in his head, and cold sweats start to emerge on his forehead. Oh no, it's like taking a test, but you didn't study for it. When he had first come up the cliff, he did ponder upon the fascinating techniques that move many times and also practiced it several times. But ever since he discovered the drawings on the rock wall in the back cave, in his heart he had been convinced with no doubt that each and every sword move of the Huashan Sword School could be defeated. The move unrivaled and unmatched, the thrust of Ning, would especially suffer a crushing defeat. So naturally, he had lost confidence in the sword move. Several times when the words, that move is useless, others can break it easily, came to his tongue, he swallowed them back. He really couldn't criticize Master Wife's highly valued sword move in front of Shu Daizu and Lu Dayo. You haven't mastered that move yet? That's quite alright. That sword move represents the most advanced techniques and skills of our Huashan style Kung Fu. Your Qigong is not that advanced yet. It's only natural that you haven't gotten it right. Give it some time and you will get there. Noticing the strange expression on Ling Huchong's face, Yue Buchun commented, Chong, why don't you want to thank your master? He has agreed to teach you the secret formula for the divine art of Violet Twilight, Madame Yue said with a smile. Yes, many thanks to you, respectful master, Ling Huchong said in shock, and quickly knelt down. Yue Buchun reached out and stopped Ling Huchong from kneeling down. Divine art of Violet Twilight is our school's most advanced Qigong technique, he said with a bright smile. The reason why I didn't teach you that rashly, wasn't because I wanted to keep it to myself. It was because once someone starts training with this Qigong, he mustn't have any distracting thoughts and must stay focused on advancing the skills. Any delay in the middle of the training would cause great harm to the practitioner and usually send him into a self-conflicting state. Chong, let me first see how your kung fu skills have progressed in the past half a year. Then I will decide if I'll teach you the secret formula for the divine art of Violet Twilight. Xu Daizi, Lu Dayo, and Yue Lingshan all showed great admiration on their faces when they heard that the big apprentice brother got to learn the divine art of Violet Twilight. All three of them knew that the divine art of Violet Twilight had magnificent power. It was well said, 9 skills of Huashan, Violet Twilight leads them all. Although they were all aware that among all the apprentices, nobody's kung fu skills were even close to Ling Hu Chong's, there was no doubt that Ling Hu Chong would get the mantle from master and become the headmaster of Huashan's sword school in the future. They still didn't expect master to teach him the number 1 skill of Huashan's sword school so soon. Big apprentice brother works very hard. Every time when I bring the food up, I always saw big apprentice brother meditating to practice breathing exercises or practicing sword arts, Lu Dayu claimed. Yue Lingshan threw a sharp sideways glance at Lu Dayu and made a face to him behind everyone's back, thinking, "You monkey six, you are lying to their faces. You just want to help big apprentice brother any way you can." Chong, draw your sword. The 3 of us will be fighting Tian Boguang soon. We are really making a frantic last-minute effort here. Even though we are sharpening the spear only before going into battle, it is still better than not sharpening it at all, Madame Yue grinned. Master Wife, did you say that the 3 of us are going to be fighting Tian Boguang? Ling Hu Chong asked in shock. You challenge him in the front, and your master and I will help you behind the scenes. No matter who kills him, we will all say that you killed him. So our fellow martial people in the martial world won't say that your master and I were lowering ourselves to pick a fight with him, Madame Yue explained. That's awesome! Yue Lingshan put her hands together and grinned. Since Dad and Mom are going to help out behind the scenes, then I'd have the courage to challenge him too. After he's dead, we'll just all say that I am the one who did it. That would be so nice. Are you jealous? You want to enjoy the unearned gain, don't you? You want to enjoy the unearned gain, don't you? Madame Yue laughed. Your big apprentice brother has embraced untold dangers and fought with the fellow Tian Boguang for several hundred rounds. He knows Tian Boguang's actual skills very well. Can you do that with just your little bit of kung fu? You're just a little girl. I don't even want to hear the villain's name mentioned out of your mouth, not mentioning having you fight him. All of a sudden, she thrust her sword at Ling Hu Chong, and the sword tip almost reached Ling Hu Chong's solar plexus. A second ago, she had been talking to her daughter in smiles. Who would have expected that Who would have expected that a second later, she had already drawn her longsword and thrust it at Ling Hu Chong's vital point. Ling Hu Chong also reacted very quickly. In an instant, he had drawn his own sword and blocked the attack. With a loud clanking sound, the 2 swords clashed in the air, and Ling Hu Chong took a step back with his left foot. Swish, 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 and swish. Madame Yue attacked 6 times continuously. Clank, 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 clank. Ling Hu Chong blocked 6 times. Start your counterattack, Madame Yue yelled out, and suddenly changed her fighting style by raising the sword high and slashing and chopping it down with great speed. Those weren't a part of Huashan-style sword art. Ling Hu Chong understood immediately that Master Wife was performing Tian Boguang's fast knife chops to help him comprehend the ways to beat them, and thus put the enemy to death. Madame Yue's attacks became faster and faster, and it was almost impossible to distinguish the connection between each move. Dad, Mom's moves are really fast, but aren't those still sword moves, not knife moves? I am afraid Tian Boguang's knife chops won't be like that, Yue Lingshan said to her father. Tian Boguang has outstanding kung fu skills. It's not an easy task to imitate his knife chop moves, Yue Buchun explained with a slight smile. Your mother is not really imitating his knife arts. She is only focusing on the fast part of it, and performing the fast part incisively and vividly. In order to rid Tian Boguang, the key lies not in how to break his knife arts, but in how to restrain the speed of his knife moves. Look at that. Perfect timing. Graceful phoenix. Yue Buchun noticed that Ling Hucheng had slightly lowered his left shoulder while retracting his right elbow and pointing his left hand fingers to the side. Then the move Graceful Phoenix immediately followed. That was the perfect move to use at the exact moment. In immense joy, he shouted out the name of the move. But as soon as the words came out of his mouth, Ling Hucheng's thrusts appeared weak and crooked. The thrust failed to penetrate the net weaved by Madame Yue's sword. What a terrible execution of the move! Yue Bushun heaved a sigh and thought aloud. Madame Yue showed no mercy whatsoever. With 3 quick thrusts, she sent Ling Hucheng into a frantic rush. Seeing that Ling Hucheng had executed every sword move in a flustered way, and that none of the moves were well organized, 3 out of 10 moves were actually not Huashan-style sword art moves at all. Yue Buchun soon had a ghastly expression on his face. Oh no, he's not doing well. Although Ling Hucheng's sword moves were really disorganized, he managed to block the swift and fierce attacks by Madame Yue. After he retreated next to the rock wall and had no more space to retract to, he gradually started his counterattack. When a chance suddenly presented itself, he immediately attacked with the move Green Pine's Welcoming Guests. His sword tip seemed to have transformed into countless sparks and pelted toward Madame Yue's temples. A loud bang exploded as Madame Yue blocked the attack with her sword. She quickly waved her sword in front of herself for protection. Madame Yue knew well that the move Green Pine's Welcoming Guests had several powerful additional techniques. Although Ling Hucheng had mastered that move well and would never really hit her with it, it was still a tough move to defend. So she changed into a defending stance from the previous attacking stance and waited in great focus. But who would have thought that Ling Hucheng's longsword came in such a slow speed, with no strength attached? It didn't even pose a threat. Execute your moves attentively! What the heck are you imagining in your head? Madame Yue yelled, and slashed her sword 3 times. Seeing that Ling Hucheng jumped around and dodged those moves, she shouted, "What kind of Green Pine's Welcoming Guests was that? Have you returned all your sword training back to your master because of your illness?" "Sorry," Ling Hucheng replied as he returned the attack with 2 of his own thrusts. His face was covered with embarrassment. Noticing that Master's face looked more and more discontented, Xu Daizi and Lu Dayou were both worried. Rustling sounds rose suddenly as Madame Yue began circling around the field. Her green skirts seemed to have transformed into a blurry green shadow. Reflections from her sword glimmered, and because of her great speed, all of her sword moves became indistinct. Ling Hucheng's brain seemed to have become a pool of muddle. All kinds of thoughts flashed by in his head and created chaos. If I use Galloping Steeds, the opponent can use the brilliant level blocking move to overcome it. If I use the sideways thrust, I'd undoubtedly be getting a terrible wound. As soon as he thought of a sword move from the Huashan sword art, he couldn't help but remember a move on the rock wall that would break the sword move. The reason why he gave up halfway when he used the moves Graceful Phoenix and Green Pine's Welcoming Guests was because he had remembered the different ways that can be used to break those 2 moves. He had become very scared, thus instinctively he would stop halfway through the execution and retract into a defending stance. So that's what's been happening. Madame Yue had used the fast sword moves, hoping to lead him into using the unrivaled and unmatched the thrust of Ning to beat the opponent and claim victory. But Ling Hucheng simply blocked using random moves. He simply wasn't focused. It appeared as if he was completely terror-stricken and scared out of his wit. She had long known that Ling Hucheng had great courage and was the fear-nothing type. She had never seen him fight like this before. "Don't you want to use that move?" Greatly annoyed, Madame Yue yelled out loudly. "Yes, ma'am," Ling Hucheng answered as he thrust his sword straight forward. The way he used the technique and the way the sword traveled matched the move created by Madame Yue. Unrivaled and unmatched, the thrust of Ning. Exactly. "Good!" Madame Yue shouted. She knew this move was an ultimately swift and fierce one, so she dared not to take it head on, but instead dodged to the side and shot out a back prick. But meanwhile, Ling Hucheng was actually thinking to himself, This move is not going to work. It's useless. It will only get me a crushing defeat. Suddenly, a tremendous shock came from his wrist, and his longsword flew out of his grip into the air. Ah! In astonishment, Ling Hucheng burst out a cry. Wasting no time, Madame Yue immediately thrust her sword straight forth. The force of the thrust sent the blade whistling through the air. It was none other than the move she had created, unrivaled and unmatched the thrust of Ning. But this time, the power of the move was even greater than when she first created the move the other day. Ever since she created that proud move of hers, she had been pondering the move every single day about how to make it faster and how to make it more powerful, so that the thrust would guarantee a hit that the enemy would have no chance of blocking or dodging. She was completely outraged when she saw how Ling Hucheng executed this proud move of hers. The beginning parts looked similar, but halfway through, the core part turned out to be completely different. It was almost like someone tried to draw a tiger and ended up with the likeness of a dog. Ling Hucheng had acted like a good-for-nothing fellow and had executed an extremely powerful killer move in a wretched and sloppy way. In great rage, she decided to execute the move herself instead. Although she didn't intend to hurt her apprentice, the move was simply too powerful. Before the tip of the sword even reached the target, the energy coming from the sword had completely enveloped Ling Hucheng's entire body. Yue Buchun could tell that Ling Hucheng had no way of dodging or blocking the attack, not mentioning putting together a counterattack. On the other day, when Madame Yue's sword touched Ling Hucheng's clothes, she immediately shocked the sword into pieces with her inner energy, but the thrust today had all the energy focused right on the sword tip. In that mode, Madame Yue might not be able to pull it back. Oh no! Yue Buchun groaned inwardly as he drew the sword by his daughter's waist in a rush and took a step forward. He was ready to jump forth to block Madame Yue's sword if it would reach half a foot further. He and Madame Yue had been fellow apprentices before, so their skill levels weren't that far apart from each other, even though Yue Buchun was slightly better. Since Madame Yue was already halfway into her move, he had no certainty of successfully blocking the thrust away. All he could do was to wish inwardly that Ling Hucheng would only be slightly wounded. In the nick of time, Ling Hucheng's fingertip happened to touch the sheath hung by his waist. He slightly bent his knees to lower his body and then aimed the sheath straight at Madame Yue's sword tip. This posture was exactly the same one as the drawing on the rock wall in the back cave. The staff-wielding man aimed his staff straight at the opponent's sword tip, so the staff and the sword made a perfect straight line. Once the two forces collided, the sword would have to break in half. Ling Hucheng's head was already in chaos with the many images of the moves drawn on the rock wall, flashing back and forth. After his sword was knocked out of his grip, seeing Madame Yue's thunder-like attack heading toward his way, he had no idea how to dodge the attack, so in order to save his own life, he naturally remembered the move drawn on the rock wall without thinking. The attack came in great speed. His counter-move also happened in great speed. There was really no time for him to even think much about it, much less looking for a staff. Since his fingertip happened to touch the sheath, he immediately aimed the sheath at the sword in a straight line. Even if his fingertip had happened to touch a block of mud or a straw, he would have used the same move to aim it at the sword in a straight line. Once the move was out, it naturally gathered his strength around his arms, and with the clanking sound, the sword went right into the sheath. It turned out that in his panic, Ling Hucheng didn't even think about turning the sheath around. As soon as he grabbed onto the sheath, he immediately aimed it at the coming sword tip, and had actually aimed the opening end of the sheath at the sword. That was why Madame Yue's longsword didn't break in half, but instead went straight into the sheath. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. He just put her sword into his sheath. That's kind of a badass move. In great bewilderment, Madame Yue only felt a great pain coming from her palm while her sword being taken out of her grip by Ling Hucheng using the sheath. The move Ling Hucheng used contained many additional techniques, and by then, Ling Hucheng had lost control of himself. Almost instinctively, he jabbed the sheath forward toward Madame Yue's throat, and the weapon on its way toward Madame Yue's throat was none other than the handle of her own sword. Half astonished and half outraged, Yue Buchun waved his long sword, and knocked it onto the sheath in Ling Huchang's grip. He used the divine art of Violet Twilight with this hit. Ling Huchang only felt a stream of warmth surge through his body and had no choice but to stumble 3 big steps back until he lost his balance and sat down on the ground heavily. The sheath, together with the sword in it, broke into several pieces before falling to the ground. Right at the instant, in a white flash, the longsword in the air fell with its tip pointing down and went all the way into the ground, leaving only the handle showing above the ground. Xu Daizi, Lu Dayou, and Yue Lingshan were simply dazzled by the unexpected scene. That's right, put her weapon away for her. What's up, Drift? How's it going? Yue Buchun rushed in front of Ling Huchang. Reaching out with his right hand, he slapped Ling Huchang hard on each of his cheeks. "You dirty swine! What were you doing?" he yelled in rage. Ling Huchang felt dizzy and almost fell to the ground. As soon as he regained himself, he knelt down on the ground. Master wife, please, forgive me." Yue Buchun's anger exploded. "In the last half a year, what contemplation have you been pondering over, and what kung fu have you been practicing?" he shouted furiously. I didn't practice any kung fu," Ling Huchang answered in terror. "Where did you get your wild imagination to create that move against your master wife?" Yue Buchun asked in a stern voice. I didn't think. In the urgency, it just happened. I just happened to use it," Ling Huchang answered haltingly. Yue Buchun heaved a sigh. "I figured that you just happened to use it without much thinking. That's why I'm getting very angry. Do you know that you have gone on to the evil way and might not be able to extricate yourself?" "Master, would you please explain?" Ling Huchang bowed his head down. After a long while, Madame Yue finally calmed herself down. Seeing Ling Huchang's swollen cheeks in black and purple from her husband's heavy slaps, she couldn't help but feel pity for and sorry for him. Oh, I have a slap. Oh. "You can get up now. You didn't know the crux of the matter anyway," she said to Ling Huchang. Turning toward her husband, she said, "Prentice brother, Chang is a very bright boy. In the past half a year, he trained all by himself and couldn't reach the 2 of us for any advice. That's probably why he got onto the evil way. But he hasn't gone very far in that evil direction. It's still not too late to correct him and get him back to the righteous way." Yue Buchun nodded. "Get up now," he said to Ling Huchang. Ling Huchang stood up slowly, staring at the long sword and the sheath on the ground, each broken in 3 pieces. He was dazzled, having no idea why master and master wife both said that his training had gone on to the evil way. "Come over here, all of you," Yue Buchun waved at Xu Daizi and the bunch. "Yes, master," Xu Daizi, Lu Dayou, and Yue Lingshan answered in unison and walked by Yue Buchun's side. 25 years ago, our Huashan Sword School's Kung Fu used to be in 2 styles, the righteous style and the evil style. Yue Buchun sat down on a big rock and explained slowly. Story time. Ling Huchang and the rest of the apprentices became very confused, each thinking, Huashan Sword School Kung Fu is Huashan Sword School Kung Fu. How could there be the distinctively righteous style and evil style? Why hasn't Master ever mentioned this to us before? Oh, hey, Timmy Turner, what's up? Oh, you like my videos on the Emishi? Thanks. I like those videos too. I'm glad you like them. Dad, Yue Lingshan interrupted. The kung fu we learned naturally is the righteous style kung fu, isn't it? Of course it is. Why would someone go on with this training knowing that he was learning the heterodox style kung fu? Yue Buchun affirmed. But the heterodox branch claimed that they were the real orthodox branch and called our branch the heterodox branch. Time became the best judge to decide which one is righteous and which one is evil. The heterodox branch eventually vanished like mist and smokes and has been gone for the last 25 years. No wonder I had never heard about it before. Dad, since the heterodox branch had been long gone, I guess we don't have to worry about them anymore, Yue Lingshan commented. What do you know? Yue Buchun mocked. The heterodox branch wasn't really like those evil heterodox clans and cults out there today. They were still using our school's kung fu skills, but they had a different focus in their training. When I teach you kung fu skills, what do I teach you at the very beginning? He fixed his stare on Ling Hucheng's face. You first taught us the formula and techniques on how to control and manipulate our inner energy. We start training with Qigong, Ling Hucheng answered. That's correct. In our Huashan sword school style, Kung Fu, the key lies in the words inner energy. Once your inner energy is developed with Qigong practices, then regardless of whatever you use as your weapon, let it be your fists and legs or knives and swords, you will succeed wherever you go. That is the righteous way for training in our school. But among the senior grandmasters of our schools, there were a group of people who believed that the key of our school's kung fu lied in the word sword, and that once someone developed his sword skills, even with ordinary level of inner energy, he could still defeat the enemy. The main divergence between the righteous branch and the evil branch lies right here. Dad, I have a comment. Promise me that you won't get mad at me. Yue Lingshan interrupted again. What comment? Yue Buchun asked. I think in our school's kung fu, no doubt inner energy is critical, but we can't overlook sword skills either. If one only has great inner energy but doesn't have good sword skills, he still won't be able to demonstrate the power of our Huashan style kung fu, Yue Lingshan said. Yue Buchun let out a snort. Who said that sword skills weren't important? The main point here is about which drives which. Inner energy is the driving force here, after all. Wouldn't it be nice if both inner energy and sword skills were the driving forces? Yue Lingshan asked. This comment of yours alone is sending you closer to the evil way. When you say both of them are driving forces, you are really saying that neither of them is the driving force. The old saying, once the head rope of a fishing net is pulled up, all its meshes open. Which is the key link and which is the mesh? We must be very clear about it. In those years when they had the discussion about the righteous style and the evil style, our school had earth-shaking changes that turned the entire Huashan sword school upside down. If you said those words 30 years ago, your head probably wouldn't be still on your neck longer than half a day. Just because a wrong comment, they'd chop people's heads off? Wow, aren't they too overbearing or what? Yue Lingshan stuck out her tongue in disbelief. When I was still a teenager, the fight between the Qi branch and the sword branch in our Huashan sword school hadn't produced a winner, Yue Buchun explained. If you had said that comment in public during that period of time, people from the Qi branch would want to kill you, and people from the sword branch would want you dead just the same. You said that inner energy and sword skills were as important as each other, and both should be the driving forces. The Qi branch would of course interpret that as you were elevating the sword branch's position above them, and the sword branch would think that you mixed up the key line with the meshes, and would still blame you for treason and heresy. Man, they take this stuff very seriously. What's there to argue about? If they wanted to know who was right and who was wrong, have a contest, then they'd know right away, Yue Lingshan said. Yue Buchun heaved a long sigh and said slowly, Over 30 years ago, our Qi branch was the minority. Uncle Masters in the sword branch were the majority. In addition to that, sword branch kung fu skills can be mastered easily and quickly. If everyone trains for 10 years, then the sword branch will definitely have the lead. If everyone trains for 20 years, then each side would have an equal opportunity to gain victory. Only after 20 years and more training, people trained with Qi branch Kung Fu would gradually become better and stronger, After 30 years of training, people trained with sword branch kung fu would then be left far behind and never stand a chance to compete again. But that means it takes at least 20 years to actually find out which one is better. You could probably imagine how fierce and intense the fight was during the 20 years or so time period. So at the very end, the sword branch people admitted their mistakes and their failure, didn't they? Yue Lingshan asked. Yue Buchun shook his head silently. After a long while, he finally spoke again. They all insisted on their theory stubbornly, never admitted their failure, even though they suffered a crushing defeat in the big sword contest on the Jade Maiden Peak. Most of them took their own lives with their own swords. The remaining ones all quietly withdrew from society and lived in solitude and never showed themselves in the martial world again. Ah, Ling Hucheng, Yue Lingshan, and the bunch of apprentices all uttered a cry of astonishment. They were all apprentice brothers in the same school. It was just a sword contest. What was that big of a deal? Why did they take it so hard? Yue Lingshan asked. It was concerning the foundation of martial arts theories. It wasn't just a small matter as apprentice brothers sparring each other, Yue Buchun said seriously. In that year, when the 5 mountain sword schools fought for the hosting right of the Alliance chief, our school really had the most talented people with the highest kung fu skills. But because of the fierce internal fights in our school, over 20 elite senior masters got killed in that big sword contest on top of Jade Maiden Peak. Sure, the sword branch had a crushing defeat, but many elite fighters in the Qi branch lost their lives also. That's how Songshan Sword School took the Alliance Chief title eventually. The fights between the Qi branch and the sword branch of the Huashan Sword School was really the root of the trouble. Ling Hucheng and the rest all nodded again and again. It's alright that our school didn't get to be the host for Alliance Chief. It's also alright that the Huashan Sword School's fame was damaged dramatically. Oh wait, he's still talking. It's alright that our school didn't get to be the host for Alliance Chief. It's also alright that the Huashan Sword School's fame was damaged dramatically. But what was not alright was the fact that apprentice brothers in our own school were killing each other ruthlessly because of the internal dissension. Those apprentice brothers used to be like real brothers to each other, but it turned so cruel and brutal. Either you kill me or I'll kill you. When I think about the scenes on Mount Huashan in those years, how everyone felt they could die at any minute, my heart still flutters with fear. At those words, he cast a glance at Madame Yue. Madame Yue's face slightly twitched. She couldn't help but feel the terror when she remembered many years ago about how the elite fighters in Huashan Sword School had slaughtered each other. Yue Buchun slowly unbuttoned his clothes and exposed his chest as Yue Lingshan shouted in shock. Oh my god, Dad, you... A 2 feet long scar lay across his chest, from his left shoulder reaching all the way down to his right chest. The wound had healed a long time ago, but a pale reddish line still showed clearly. Apparently the wound was so severe that Yue Buchun almost lost his life because of it. Both Ling Hucheng and Yue Lingshan had grown up by Yue Buchun's side, but neither of them had known about the scar until now. Yue Buchun explained as he started to button his clothes. In that day of the big sword contest atop Jade Maiden Peak, an uncle master in our school hit me with a strong sword slash. I fainted immediately. He probably thought I was already dead and paid no more attention to me. If he had conveniently stabbed me again, then undoubtedly that you, father, wouldn't be sitting here today. And who knows where I, Yue Lingshan, would be at? Yue Lingshan grinned. Yue Buchun let out a slight smile, but his face soon turned solemn again. Asian Hogwarts is intense. Indeed. This is a big secret of our Huashan Sword School. Don't any of you let it out. Although people from other schools knew that the Huashan Sword School had lost over 20 elite masters in a single day, none of them knew the truth lying behind it. We only claimed to the outside world that a plague suddenly broke out and almost wiped out our entire Huashan sword school. We should never let others know about this disgraceful event that happened to our school. The reason why I had to tell you all the cause and effect today is because the consequences could be very severe. If Chong followed the current path and went on with his training, then within 3 years he would think sword skill is more important than inner energy and get trapped in an extremely dangerous state of mind. That will not only destroy you and the ultimate true orthodox kung fu of our Huashan sword school, earned by many senior masters sacrificing their lives, but also our entire Huashan sword school. Cold sweats broke out all over Ling Huchong's body as he listened in. I've made a terrible mistake. Master and master wife, please punish me Please punish me heavily. He bowed his head down in shame. Well, Yue Bushun said with a sigh, it is really an unintentional mistake you have made. You were really not to blame. But think about the many uncle masters of the sword branch. They all had good intentions to build great fame for our school using extreme kung fu. Yet once they went on the wrong way and had gone too far down the road, they simply couldn't extricate themselves anymore. If I don't give you a blow and shout right now, with your intelligence and temper, you could easily end up taking the evil route to try to find shortcuts for quick effects. Yes, Master, Ling Huchong answered. Chong, how did you think of the earlier move that used the sheath to take away my sword? Madame Yue asked. I only wanted to get out from Master Wife's extremely powerful attack. Who would have thought? Ling Huchong felt so ashamed and embarrassed. Hey Mercy, oh, I'm glad that you like these. I like to do these too. Alright guys, 5-minute break. I think I made Yue Buchun's voice too low. It's not good on your throat. Alright guys, 5 minutes. Be right back. Alright, back. Bigfoot, you're drinking? What are you drinking? Hey Willa, good to see you. Glad you joined. Alright. So we learned a little bit about the past, right? So in the past, the Huashan school used to be the most powerful school in the five mountains sword alliance. But they had a civil war, right? You had 2 branches of the school. One focused on their chi, and the other one focused on sword skills. And the chi branch actually defeated the sword branch, but it resulted in the devastation of the Huashan school, right? A lot of people died. And now it looks like Ling Huchong is following in the footsteps of the sword branch and practicing his sword moves. And his master is trying to get him to not do that. Because it's evil, guys. It's evil. All right. So Ling Huchong felt so ashamed and embarrassed. That's it. By now you probably understand which one is truly superior between Chi branch and sword branch. This move of yours is surely a clever one, but as soon as it met with your master's first-class Qigong, despite of how clever it is, it would be rendered useless. When the 2 branches had the big sword contest on Jade Maiden Peak that year, elite fighters from the sword branch had dazzling magical moves that were ultimately brilliant, but your grandmaster relied on his divine art of Violet Twilight to counter motion with standstill and defy cleverness with dullness. He was able to defeat over 10 elite fighters from the sword branch and affirmed the foundation of our school's orthodox kung fu. All of you must take your master's advice to your heart and ponder over it again and again. The kung fu of our school uses inner energy as the foundation and sword skills as the implementation. Inner energy is the driving force, and sword skill is the secondary. Inner energy is the key line, and sword skill is the mesh. If you can't succeed with your inner energy development, despite of how strong you are with your sword skills, it is still useless after all. Ling Wuchang, Xu Daizi, and Lu Dayo and Yue Lingshan all bowed down for the preaching of Madame Yue. Chong, I had planned to teach you the entry formula for the divine arts of Violet Twilight today, and then bring you down Mount Huashan to kill the villain Tianbo Guang. But we'd better postpone that for now, Yue Buchun said. During the next 2 months, you can practice the breathing exercise for Qigong training I taught you You can practice the breathing exercise for Qigong training I taught you before, diligently, and forget all those heterodoxy and weird sword moves. I will check on you again later to see if you have any progress. At those words, he suddenly put on a stern tone. But if you obstinately stick to the wrong course and stay on Sword Branch's evil route, a harsher punishment would be to take your life, and a lighter punishment would be to destroy all the kung fu you have and banish you from our school once and for all. By then, it would be too late to beg for mercy. And don't you blame me for not explaining everything clearly to you beforehand. Cold sweat streamed down Ling Huchang's forehead. Yes, master, I would never dare to do so, he said. Lingshan, Yue Buchun turned to his daughter. Dayo and you are both the impetuous type. You two should also remember what I just said to your big apprentice brother. Yes, master. Yes, master, Lu Dayu answered immediately. Sixth apprentice brother and I are impatient, but we are not as smart as big apprentice brother and won't be able to create sword moves of our own. Dad, you can relax, Yue Lingshan argued. You won't be able to create sword moves of your own? Didn't you create a sword form called Chong Ling Sword Art with Chong? Yue Buchun snorted. Ling Wuchang and Yue Lingshan both blushed. Remember, when they were younger, they created they created a joint sword like martial arts form together. Sorry, master, we were being mischievous. Ling Wuchang asked for forgiveness. That was a long time ago. I was still a kid by then, who didn't know anything, and was just playing with big apprentice's brother. How did you hear about it? Yue Lingshan grinned. My apprentices wanted to create sword art of their own and start a new style. If I, the headmaster, still had no clue, wouldn't I have become a muddlehead? Dad, you are still making fun of me. Yue Lingshan pulled onto her father's sleeve and whined. Wow, that whine came way too easily for me. Ling Huchang, on the other hand, felt a great shock in his heart when he noticed that there was no sign of joking from the master's tone of voice or the expression on his face. Yue Buchun stood up. When someone advanced into the higher level of our school's kung fu, even a petal of flower or a leaf could be used as a weapon to injure the enemy. Others might think that the Huashan Sword School is only good at its sword skills. They have really belittled us. Yue Buchun flicked his left sleeve, and the longsword by Lu Dayo's waist jumped out of the sheath as the stream of energy reached it. He then followed with a flick from his right sleeve. As soon as the sleeve touched the blade, the sword broke in half with a loud cracking sound. Ling Huchang and the rest of the apprentices were seized by terror, while Madame Yue eyed her husband with tremendous admiration and respect. Hey, he just broke his sword. Not cool. Let's go, Yue Buchun said, and walked off the cliff together with Madame Yue. Yue Lingshan, Xu Daizhi, and Lu Dayo followed behind them. You like my whiny teenage brat voice? Dad! Staring at the two broken swords laying still on the ground, Ling Huchang was half stunned and half thrilled. He thought aloud, it turned out that our school's kung fu is really powerful. No one would be able to defeat our sword art, regardless of which move master uses. All those drawings on the rock wall in the back cave claimed that the unique sword moves of the Five Mountains Sword Alliance were defeatable. Yet the Five Mountains Sword Alliance is still able to enjoy great fames in the martial world today. Hence, every sword school has advanced Qigong as the foundation, and once the sword move is executed with vigorous inner energy, it would be difficult to defeat. This is actually a very simple principle, but I had forgotten about it when my thoughts were on the wrong track and went to a dead end. With the same move of Graceful Phoenix, how could I treat the one executed by apprentice brother Lin and the one executed by Master as the same? The staff-wielding man can defeat apprentice brother Lin's Graceful Phoenix, but he would stand no chance of defeating Master's Graceful Phoenix. Finally able to figure out the answer to his puzzled mind, Ling Wuchang ridded himself of all shadows of anxiety. Even though Master didn't teach him the divine arts of Violet Twilight, nor did he say anything about betrothing Yue Lingshan to marry him, Ling Wuchang didn't feel depressed in any way. On the contrary, he was gratified for gaining back his confidence in the Huashan Sword School's Kung Fu. But when he remembered how he had the wildest fantasy thinking that Master and Master Wife would betroth their daughter to marry him, he blushed in great embarrassment. I know, right? The school's going to go broke. He's buying new swords. He just keeps breaking all of his apprentices' swords. We need a soundtrack for broken swords. Oh, I don't have that. I guess I don't. Yeah, I only have this. Alright, I'll find a broken sword sound for you. You like my Fei voice, Nick? I was like I had to go like super high for that voice. Kind of makes you wonder if they aren't just using scrap steel and running a racket. Oh, I think Yue Buchun is running a racket. He just keeps breaking the swords, so they have to buy new ones. Thinking. Smart guy. At dusk the next day, Lu Dayo brought food up the cliff. Big apprentice brother, Master and Master Wife left for northern Shanxi earlier this morning. Northern Shanxi? Why not Chang'an? Ling Wuchang asked with a bit of surprise. The chap, Tan Boguan, committed several more crimes in the town of Chang'an. It turned out that the villain is no longer in Chang'an, Lu Dayo explained. Wait. The chap, Tian Boguang, committed several more crimes in the town of Yan'an. It turned out that the villain is no longer in Chang'an, Lu Dayo explained. Oh, Ling Wuchang replied. He thought that since Master and Master Wife had attended the matter personally, Tian Boguang would have no chance of surviving, but deep in his mind he could not help but feel sorry for Tian Boguang. For a guy like Tian Boguang, who loves porn and lewd obscenities, and has been committing crimes after crime against innocent people, even death would not expiate all his sins. He surely has high kung fu skills, and in the 2 fights between the 2 of us, he acted open and upright, and showed the qualities of a true man. What a pity that he chooses to commit evil deeds and thus become a public enemy of the entire martial world. Throughout the next 2 days, Ling Wuchang focused on practicing his Qigong, and never went back to the back cave to study the drawings on the rock wall. Whenever thoughts about the drawings came to his mind, he would force them out instantly, with no hesitation, and tried his best to avoid them. He kept thinking, fortunately, Master shouted his advice to me in time, otherwise I'd be going on the wrong road and become a sinner of our Huashan Sword School. What a close call. One day after dinner, Ling Wuchang meditated for a couple of hours when he suddenly heard someone climbing up the cliff. The sounds of footsteps appeared to be swift and agile. It was obvious that the person had great kung fu skills. Ling Wuchang felt a great shock in his heart. He's not someone from our sword school. Why is he coming up the cliff? Could he be the masked man in the green robe? He rushed to the back cave and picked up a Huashan sword to hang by his waist, before rushing back to the front cave. Only a moment later, the person had climbed up the cliff. Brother Ling Hu, your old friend is here to visit you, the fellow shouted. The voice sounded very familiar to Ling Wuchang, and it only took him a short moment before realizing that it was the voice of 10,000 miles loner Tian Bo Guang. Damn it, this guy again. In astonishment, Ling Huchong thought to himself, Master and Master Wife went down Mount Huashan to go after you, yet you are still so bold to come up Mount Huashan yourself. What do you want here? He walked out from the cave and greeted with a smile. Brother Tian, what a big surprise that you have come such a long way to visit me. Wow, he's so nice to his enemy there. He's just a friendly guy. He's just a friendly guy, dude. He's just a friendly dude. Tian Bo Guang carried 2 large bamboo baskets on a shoulder pole. He sat the bamboo baskets on the ground and then took out a large jar from each of the baskets. A big smile on his face. We can guess what the large jar contains. I heard that Brother Linghu had become a prisoner on top of Mount Huashan, so I figured that he must have been drooling for a good drink of wine. That's why I took 2 jars of 130-year-old mellow wine from the cellar of Chang'an, banished fairy winehouse, so I can drink my fill together with Brother Linghu, he said. Ling Huchong took several steps closer. Sure enough, under the moonlight, the trademark in golden characters on red papers, Banish Fairy Winehouse, could be clearly seen glued to the 2 wine jars. The trademark papers and the seals on the wine jars appeared to be quite aged. It was obvious that the 2 wine jars weren't anything current. He couldn't help but feel delighted. Wow, to carry 100 pounds of wine all the way up Mount Huashan. What a big present! Come, let's have a drink. His face splits into a big smile. He's such an alcoholic. Ling Huchong took 2 big bowls out from inside the cave. As soon as Tian Bo Guang opened the seal, the wonderful smell of the mellow wine filled the air. Before he even had a chance to taste it, Ling Huchong already felt tipsy. Have a taste. What do you think? Tian Bo Guang poured a bowl of wine from the wine jar. Ling Huchong took the bowl and drank a big swallow. This is superb, he praised, and then poured the entire bowl of wine down his throat. Raising his thumb up, he said, Famous wine, it's really exceptional. Hey Christian, what's up? Lichen Rock. You say, hey. Lichen Rock says, hey, I like your vids a ton. Thank you. I like your comments. I've heard that out of all the famous wines, Fen wine ranks #1 in northern China, and Shao wine leads the rest in southern China. Actually, the best Fen wine is not in Shanxi province, but in the town of Shan'an. And in the town of Chang'an, the best one would be none other than the Banished Fairy Winehouse, where Li Taiba used to get drunk all the time many years ago. And in the entire world, other than these 2 jars of wine, no one will be able to find a 3rd one left. Tian Bo Guang grinned. Are you saying that they only had 2 of these jars left in the cellar of the Banished Fairy Winehouse? Ling Huchong asked in surprise. After I took these 2 wine jars, there were still about 200 jars left in the cellar. I figured that if all those high officials and noble lords in the town of Chang'an, the ordinary and vulgar ones, could go to the Banished Fairy Winehouse to enjoy such a wonderful wine as long as they have the money in their pockets, then how could the big hero Ling Hu of the Huashan Sword School stand out from all the ordinary? Therefore I banged and whammed, and soon the entire cellar was filled with the wonderful smell of wine, as the flood of wine went up almost to my waist, Tian Bo Guang explained in amusement. I don't think this is the voice that I gave him before. Yeah, it sounds different. But anyways, apparently he took 2 wine jars, but broke all of the other jars in that wine house. Are you saying that you actually smashed 200 or so jars of wine into pieces? Ling Huchong was half stunned and half amused. Wouldn't it be more valuable if there were Wouldn't it be more valuable if there were only 2 jars left in the entire world? Ha 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 ha. Tian Bo Guang burst into loud laughter. Thanks, many thanks. Ling Huchang drank another bowl. It is so troublesome for you to carry these 2 jars of wine all the way from Chang'an to Mount Huashan, Brother Tian. Even if they were filled with pure water, I'd owe you a debt of gratitude. Anyhow, not mentioning that they were filled with famous wine. You are a good man, a real man, Tian Boguang praised loudly with his thumbs up. Why are you praising me all of a sudden? Ling Huchang asked. I am an infamous evil rapist who commits all kinds of crimes. I've severely wounded you before, and I've also committed several crimes right by the foot of Mount Huashan. Everyone in the Huashan Sword School wished to kill me, but when I carried the wine here today, Brother Linghu drank it with me Brother Linghu drank it with complete ease, without ever worrying that I might plant poison in the wine. Only a true man with such a breadth of mind is worth enjoying such worldly famous wine. Brother Tian, you are making fun of me now. I have fought you twice, and knew well that even though Brother Tian has very bad conduct, you would disdain to stab anyone on the back. Besides, your kung fu skills are way higher than mine. If you want to kill me, all you have to do is to draw your knife and chop down. What's so difficult about that? Ling Hushang said. Brother Linghu, you said it right. Tian Boguang laughed some more. But did you know that I didn't carry these 2 jars of wine directly from Chang'an to Mount Huashan? I carried these 200-pound wine first to northern Shanxi for 2 robberies, and then to eastern Shanxi for another 2 robberies before I finally came up Mount Huashan. Ling Wuchang was stunned. He pondered over it and quickly understood. So, Brother Tian continuously committed many crimes just to divert my master and master wife away, so you can come and see me. You've used the strategy of luring the enemy away from the base. Brother Tian, after going through all these trouble, what do you exactly want from me? He said. Brother Linghu, why don't you give it a wild guess? Tian Boguang suggested with a smile. No way, Ling Huchang rejected. He poured a bowl of wine and then said, Brother Tian, you are a guest here at Mount Huashan. I don't have anything in exchange for your presence here on the barren cliff. I am just going to borrow something to make a gift of it. Please enjoy a bowl of #1 wine in the world. Thanks, Xian Boguan answered and poured the bowl of wine down his throat. Ling Huchang also drank a bowl of wine as a company. After showing each other the empty bottoms of the bowls, the two set the bowls down and broke into a laugh at the same time. All of a sudden, Ling Huchang kicked out with his right leg, and with 2 loud bangs, the 2 large wine jars were kicked down the deep valley. Only after a long while, the 2 muffled smashing sounds came back from the bottom. Done. Nikki says, Tian Guang had a different kind of voice, but I don't remember it. Yeah, I think I gave him a different voice. I can't remember the voices I give for people, and I can't remember how to recreate those voices, even if I do remember. This tea is good. Alright, another macadamia nuts. Oh yeah, not yesterday. Last week I forgot to drink my shot of Fireball. So I'll do that this week. No one died this time. No, they didn't. It's okay. It'll happen soon. Good stuff. So it looks like Ling Wuxiang is not going to practice those sword moves anymore. Yeah. But you kind of get the feeling that something's wrong. Like something's wrong with that explanation between the Qi branch and the sword branch. And what happened in the cave, right? Because if you remember, those those elders of the demon cult, they were trapped in the cave, right? Right? There was that guy who was trying to dig out of the cave, and he was like a foot away from the exit, and that's how Ling Huchang found the cave. So they were trapped. But why were they trapped? What were they doing? All right. Fireball. I hope I don't choke on this like I did the tea. That'll be funny. Cheers. Good stuff. That's right. Only the people of the Chinchang Sword School call people, use the insult son of a turtle. Because that's the insult from the region where they're from. Incompetent chicken. Yeah, we didn't have a new insult. What's up with that? We only have 5. I think. Let me see. Yeah, so son of a turtle is from the Sichuan province. Bullnose, that's for Taoists. Smelly rotten duck egg. I like that. Your grandmother has no eyes, which I don't understand. And incompetent chickens. Which one is the best? I think smelly rotten duck egg is the most foul. I really like son of a turtle, but incompetent chicken is a good second best. Oh, because turtles hide themselves in their shell when they're in danger. So people think it's a cowardly thing to do. Ah, thanks, Slosh. Alright guys, I'm pooped. Thanks for joining. And I'll see you guys next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. I love you guys. Bye. I'll be in the Discord for a little bit.